Holy wow, do we have a show prepared for today, John. This is one of the most amazing days in the history of Crowdsource the Truth. You've made a discovery in the research into the assassination attempt against President Donald Trump that's an absolute breakthrough. And before we get to the details, I want to help people understand the gravity of what it is that you've discovered here. Now, it's also important for people to remember, we're less than 3 weeks into this. We've been looking at some real decimated elements, and people have some disagreements. We're going to address those tonight. But we're doing a process here, and I don't know, this is not necessarily intentional, John, but you've been doing a fantastic job of this. You remember David Hawkins. You have been a part of Crowdsource the Truth since the beginning, just as David was. And David Hawkins had this method of investigating, which he called reverse engineering, reverse crime scene investigation. And what he would do is he would actually attempt to reverse engineer a crime based on the unique technological signature of the weaponry used. And the thing is, you've been doing that with the crack thump analysis, and it's amazing what you've been discovering. The other thing that David Hawkins used to talk about was this concept of understanding a narrative to track characters, and then understanding the characters to better understand the narrative. This is part of the reverse engineering process because, you know, we don't know who planned this crime, who executed this crime. So we're figuring things out, and it's an iterative, evolutionary process that is getting better and better all the time. So why don't you explain to people exactly what it is that you've discovered? I've been saying that this thing is the real new Zapruder film, and I'm saying that because in one fell swoop, you've changed the course of this investigation. You've potentially changed our understanding of what happened on July 13th, and you and I have exposed a social engineering operation that we basically nipped in the bud the second it started in the form of Chris Martenson. And I just want to be clear, we're not bashing Chris. We don't hate Chris. You had reached out to him to try to work with him. We're trying to figure out what's going on here. And we're going to get into talking about that guy, Unsteady Dave, and the whole rollout of his video because it's important. Why don't you tell us, John, what it is that you've discovered, and then we'll get into some of these other things as we get to our sponsor exclusive segment and all that stuff.
Well, first of all, I'm thrilled that we're joined again by Lee Stranahan. So Lee's with us in the show. So Lee, thank you for joining us again. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. And, you know, I think it's all going to start coming together. So about a week ago, we got together, the three of us, and we talked about building this four-dimensional model of the crime scene. And when we first started the investigation, it's kind of funny to me because, you know, I have a sick sense of humor, right? My sense of humor is very dark because I live in a world of these kind of dark crimes. So my sense of humor and the things that make me laugh are kind of weird. So like with COVID, it's almost like I feel bad for Jason. I feel bad for you because it must, for you, it's like, how did you end up stuck working with a retard? It's like, what was the movie The Hangover? but it's like the movie The Hangover, and it's like the guy who can count cards is just a disaster. You know, it's like, but he can count cards, right? And so I kind of feel like that for you, because when the COVID thing hit, and you're like, no, dude, there's a cover up here, and I'm like, no, it's bat soup, man. It's turtles and eels and ducks and the same. I shopped in these places. Of course, it's real. And you were like, no. There's something here. And when I started to scratch the surface, I was like, son of a gun. There's something here. This is a cover up. And it's like, you've got a nose for this stuff. And when this whole thing started, the naive me, the very naive childlike part of me is thinking this is Dylan Klebold, Eric Harris 2.0, couple yayos in Pennsylvania trying to put Butler on the map. You're like, no. I think you're going to find a 3D kill box. And I'm like, what? And sure enough, lo and behold, it's almost like you had the blueprints for this.
Wait.
It's like you had the blueprints for this stuff.
Well, so this touches on the Hawkins part because you're talking about a 3D kill box. People don't know what that is. But day two, I didn't know what it was either. I woke up in the morning and it had occurred to me from looking at what you were publishing and everything that we were talking about, there were a lot of things that made this similar to the JFK assassination, which is another reason why it's good that we have Lee with us here tonight. But the technique that they were employing, and it just occurred to me that this would have to be what they do in any kind of military style assassination plot, is this concept of the three-dimensional kill box. And I actually spoke to somebody about this today who has military experience, and he agreed. This is the concept of triangulating fire to trap a target in a zone that is really statistically not impossible, but very difficult to not eliminate the target in there. And this goes to the understanding the narrative. I didn't just invent some concept. I said to myself, wait a minute, we have an example here of JFK. What if we apply that and start looking for evidence and looking at the characters based on that understanding?
So this is the impact that this learning has had for me, right? So I didn't know all this stuff. You threw this 3D kill box at me on day 2, and I was like, oh, please, come on. It's just a kid in a tree. Come on, come on. And no. And so what this does, and the way that the Hawkins method works, is the more sophisticated the ballistic findings are, the further we start moving on the continuum towards JFK 2.0. Because in order to pull off something like this, when Jason's talking about 3D kill box, I mean, these are sophisticated techniques. I had the opportunity to talk to Clay Martin the other day. He's an urban warfare sniper. I mean, you're talking about sophisticated stuff, right? And sure enough, when we start finding the ballistic evidence of that, now the narrative is starting to get developed by the crime scene. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. This kind of changes everything. So it's fascinating to me that it's almost like precognition. I mean, to some people, they look at you like, how would you know that? Right? It's like, how would you know that there's going to be this? Right? And then I go sniffing around in audio files and start doing crack thumb stuff. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me.
The reason it's important, John, is not for me to build myself up as some Nostradamus predictor of things. It's because this is a form of evidence. Not exactly. I mean, in other words, this is a hunch that helps us develop evidence. But because we understand the nature of what we're looking at and can anticipate a logical narrative. So in other words, first we heard shots are fired at a Trump rally. That's part of a narrative. Then we heard Trump is down. We didn't know what was going on. Then he's up, he's shot, he's out. Then we find out there was this guy kind of lurking around the building. There were local law enforcement in the building. They weren't in the building. SWAT teams, this and that. We're learning more details about the narrative. And then as evidence comes out, like this body camera footage, we've been finding out things about more of the characters. We've been talking about this Agent Sketchy of the Secret Service, who is seen inside the American Glass building. It's not clear yet from official reports if that guy was supposed to be in there when he got there. We look at the charts and the law enforcement maps and reports that have been released by Chuck Grassley, and Secret Service is not scheduled to be in that building, so it becomes very curious. And that's another character. We start to look at where he is. He's now appeared in Unsteady Dave's video. He seems to have interfaced somehow with this guy, Dave Stewart, who, according to Chris Martenson, his shaky, degraded, recompressed, transcoded video is the modern day Zapruder film. But I disagree. I believe that you have found within the Fox News video that was released yesterday. This is video that was recorded by James Copenhaver. And the thing that's so amazing about this is I don't even think Fox noticed this. Tell us what you've got here, John.
So the couple ironic pieces here. So one is that the footage was filmed by James Copenhaver, or Copenhaver. So James Copenhaver
is a victim. Copenhagen.
I'm dyslexic with that kind of stuff. So it's either Copenhagen or Copenhaver.
Copenhaver. James Copenhaver.
So James Copenhaver is a victim. He was shot. Now, he has been released from the hospital and he is recovering, but he films this. So that's kind of, what? So that's step one. Step two, we see the guy running across the roof. We never really saw the guy running across the roof before. We've got that TMZ footage, but we never really saw anybody running across the roof like this. And then at the end of the footage, I don't know, kind of looks like he's getting his head blown off. No, I don't know. That's just me. I could be wrong. You know, that could just be he sneezed. I don't know. But it looks like something. Now, you were concerned about the quality of the video footage that we had from Unsteady Dave. I look at this and I'm like, what did these guys use, a VHS camcorder to shoot this? How could Mr. Copenhaver have gotten something so lousy? But even with the lousy footage, when we zoom in and we slow it down, it looks like whoever was just running across that roof, looks like they just got capped. And if that's the case, the president's still talking and Copenhaver's filming. Then who shot Copenhaver? Who shot the president? If this kid just got shot in the head, and if this kid just got shot in the head, who's the kid on the roof we see in the TMZ video?
Now, to be clear, these are questions, and there's a lot of questions to be answered. I agree with you that this footage does seem to show that, but as you said, this is very decimated footage. Now, let's just look at it here for a second, sort of frame by frame, because you're asking a lot of good questions. Why does it look so low quality? Well, we don't know. This is a video that's been provided by Fox News. Now, we notice, here's Fox News. This is put out on the internet at 720p, which is not the highest resolution that HD can offer. And this doesn't look necessarily like the highest resolution that would be recorded by a phone. Now, this could be cropped in by Fox or something.
Compare this footage. You showed us footage a couple days ago of the guy going, look out for the president, protect the president. It was clear as a bell. I'm looking at this and this looks like VHS camcorder to me. This looks like 240p.
It's quite interesting. Well, this is 360p. I downloaded the original standalone version of this video, and Fox hasn't made it available. Exactly, that's VHS resolution, 360 vertical lines. We can barely discern any detail in it. So I want to try to contact Fox. I've been trying to contact Fox to get a better quality. I don't know if it exists, but what we can tell from this already, because people are going to say, oh, Jason, you're a hypocrite. You were, all angry at that kid Dave with the quality, and now you're saying this is good. You're just doing whatever Cullen says. No, because let's just evaluate for a second. First of all...
No. Yeah, that's not happening.
This was broadcast by Fox. We have no indication that the FBI ever took this. Dave tells us that the FBI or the Secret Service or whoever, we see it on the video. They interface with him, they take his driver's license, they take the video. He tells us they had the phone for 2 weeks before we ever see his video. And we've interacted with Dave when we asked him for the unmolested file, which, by the way, I'm not saying have some kind of exclusive arrangement with Crowdsource the Truth. I'm saying give it to Ron Johnson, give it to Chuck Grassley, give it to Chris Martinson. I'm just saying if he's going to go and do a forensic analysis of it, and I get what you're saying, John, there are sometimes very poor elements available to us, and with Vegas it was hard to find high quality elements, but the point is, when we're in touch with the guy who shot the video, and we know he has it on his phone, what you did initially with Dave's video was good. There's sound in it that was interesting. Okay, we've got an interesting video. But when he gave us pushback on wanting to release it, he said that he didn't want to release the video because he plans to do a documentary. And I don't necessarily agree that releasing the unmolested file would damage his ability to make a documentary any more than releasing the file that he already has released. And I'm not trying to exploit it economically. I'm just saying there's evidence in there that we need to examine critically, and that is true of this as well. However, this is broadcast by Fox, and there's something, this is technically hearsay, John, from a standpoint of evidence. I'm being such a stickler because we don't want to just make YouTube shows about this. I would like to be able to submit evidence that you develop and that we develop on this show, and that people who are participating in this crowdsource effort send to us. I don't just want every crappy screen capture people can get, because we need to rely on the best elements. And if this stuff goes to Congress, it's going to need to be authenticated, meaning the person who shot it will eventually have to raise their right hand and say, this is the original footage, I shot it, here's the file from my camera with the date on it, it's got certain forensic metadata elements that aren't changed or whatever. Now, let's imagine the person, what would happen if we had a video from Corey Comparatori and he's not alive and he can't raise his right hand? Well, there are exceptions to hearsay, and it's important for people to remember that I'm not an attorney. I'm just recounting things as a layperson that I've read. Other people can check this, I might be wrong. But the authentication process could involve exceptions to the hearsay rule. And so let's presume, what if Fox modified this video and what you're looking at is actually something that they added? Well, that doesn't make sense, because Fox did not come on the news and say, oh my God, we have groundbreaking video of the guy on the roof getting shot in the face. They just said, oh, well, you know, this might be him. And so the notion of them adding something to this video to change it, it would be against their interest. And statements or actions against your own interest are exceptions to the hearsay rule. It doesn't make sense that Fox would modify this video to add what looks like a bullet right here. And so right away, that would be something against their interest to do. Now with Dave, he didn't want to give us the original video, which is suggestive that we might find something there that would be different than what's in the video that he released. If Fox, if we can get to whoever it is that's in charge of telling us if we can or cannot have this video, if they resist releasing it, then we might begin to presume that it's manipulated or there's something about it that is no good. But they didn't do that, and we have no reason to believe that they would do that. And furthermore, I do not see evidence, and I want to ask Lee about this. Lee, I don't know if you can see, I'm toggling back and forth one frame here, and inside that red circle, here's frame, let's call this frame 1. Frame 2, there's a bullet right in front of the guy's face. Frame 3, the head looks almost disappeared. And so we need to understand MPEG encoding and what's happening here. This is such a fast event in terms of real time what's happening. This would be motion blurred and a whole mess of explosion and things. So when the video encoder is attempting to make an image out of this, it's becoming confused by the mist and the blur of this guy's head getting disrupted by a bullet and the color of the background wall. So it sort of looks like his head disappears for a second, but then he's back, and it looks like he's collapsing. Lee, what do you think about this? Does this look like someone has added visual effects to this, or does this look like an authentic video? Are you able to see that on the screen share?
No, not enough where I would comment on that. But I want to comment on one thing.
Sure.
This footage, the size of it, again, you said it's 720. That's very unusual. Put it like this. Your camera, any camera, Samsung, Apple, has two cameras, the one on this side and the one on this side, okay? The one on this side, the screen camera, but the selfie camera is usually low resolution, right? But low resolution on most modern phones is HD, is 1920 by 1280.
Right. Exactly.
720 is very unusual. And we're talking about like authenticating the footage. One thing you could do immediately to authenticate it, start the process, is look at clips that were shot before and after. For instance, if they shot a clip on the way to the event and they shot a clip afterwards at McDonald's or something, if those are 1280 and this only, the one in the middle is not 1280, you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That would start the authentication. It doesn't authenticate it, but can rule stuff out. Make sense?
This, I think, is encoded and put on YouTube at 720 by 1280. And, you know, in the future, Lee, I forgot to tell everybody that we were going to begin a new show today that was going to focus on the efforts that you will be heading up to curate and direct and keep an organized library of all these different assets. John is going to show us later during the sponsor exclusive segment. People are going to be able to join us on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen. Patreon.com/I am John Cullen. Lee's sponsors will be able to see the simulcast on Patreon.com/Stranahan. And of course, Crowdsource the Truth viewers can watch on all the Crowdsource the Truth sponsorship channels. But John has got some 3D assets that people have already started developing. So we're going to look at that. We're going to show people how this 4-dimensional forensic analysis of the crime scene will work. But just to speak to your 720 question, these are encoded on YouTube at 720p. We don't know what resolution they're recorded at, but I agree with you, Lee. I think it would be odd for somebody's phone to not record at least 1920 1080. That's full resolution HD. Many people's phones are recording in 4K. And I've been seeing footage that looks like we're on the hunt for Bigfoot. I don't understand why it's all so decimated. But John, tell us some more about what you've got here and what you think the implications are, and we'll, in just a few minutes, we'll get into it.
I think the interesting part is the implication. So if in fact this kid is getting capped here, which it appears he is, and it would be hard to believe that Fox would publish this knowing that that was visible. So again, this to me, this looks like it's an accident. Most of the things I discovered in the Vegas shooting were published by accident, meaning they've got people scrubbing things. They've got people redacting stuff, redacting parts of the screen, redacting parts of the audio, and enough stuff slips through the cracks because these people are lazy. We caught them anyway.
I don't know if this is lazy. Very few people in the world would be able to notice this. People who haven't been watching for long don't know that you, John, have proven yourself. I mean, this is beyond a doubt in my mind. You've found something here. Now, we need higher quality video from this to get it to the point that it can be used in court. But right now, this is hypothesis building, and this is very strong evidence right here.
Well, it's paradoxical because you've got the guy who got shot filming the guy who supposedly shot him dying. This is a film. Where's Dino De Laurentiis? The guy who got shot is filming the guy who supposedly shot him die. So how did he shoot Copenhagen?
It opens so many questions. It's unbelievable.
I mean, and if you guys aren't,
leave, we're not done.
I was going to say, if you guys aren't a patron of Lee Stranahan, I want people to understand that Lee has a patron-only page. Lee's work on this project is about to go to the moon. I mean, the stuff Lee's going to bring to the table with this is going to blow people away. And so if you guys aren't yet sponsoring Lee, how do they get to Lee's Patreon page and all that?
Lee is on patreon.com/Stranahan, and that's a great way for people to sponsor Lee and help keep this research going. What we're going to eventually do next week, we'll do a show where Lee will explain in detail how we're going to develop this 4D project. But I want to stay focused on the Zapruder film aspect of this for 1 minute because it's important. Remember, on Saturday, we started dealing with that guy, Unsteady Dave, who shot that very shaky video that Chris Martenson made an extremely big deal out of, which is fine. But Chris Martenson said, oh, this is the modern Zapruder film. And I totally disagree.
Why did he feel that way? Why did he feel that? Why was he saying that?
Well, that's an anomaly. That's the thing. It didn't make sense to me. I said, this is not the Zapruder film. This is roughly equivalent to 1,000 other videos that people recorded who stand near the building. And it's not even a film. He called it the Stewart film, which made me nuts because it's a video and he's supposed to be a scientist examining this thing. He doesn't even know what he's looking at. If I went to a virology conference and spoke about a bacteria, they'd think I was an idiot who didn't know what he was talking about. But you've raised the first point as to why this is the Zapruder film. It's just so unlikely that it was captured. And the irony that it was captured by Mr. Copenhagen, who is a victim, is incredible. The questions it opens about how this changes the narrative is going to have a stunning impact on the reverse CSI aspect of this. But even more than all of that, John, the thing that makes the Zapruder film, and for people who don't know what we're talking about, because there's a lot of people who don't know about the JFK assassination, the Zapruder film is the only motion picture footage that's been publicly released of the assassination of JFK. And people now know what I'm talking about. This is the film where he's driving down Main Street in the motorcade, and we actually see the bullet strike his head. Now, I can't show it on YouTube without this video becoming restricted for all ages. You can't download the Zapruder film from YouTube anymore. I have many copies of it that I've downloaded, but the thing that the Zapruder film did, when it was finally released to the public, 12 years after the assassination, nobody in the public saw the Zapruder film until 1975, when Robert Groden delivered a black and white print from the reversal color film, a very poor contrast, very poor quality way to print the film. Everyone was just totally stunned, because what this did was it changed our understanding of what happened in Dealey Plaza that day. We had been told that Kennedy was shot by a rifle, a Mannlicher Carcano, behind him on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository building. But when people saw the Zapruder film and saw President Kennedy's head lurch back and to the left, as made famous by the Oliver Stone movie, people realized that this logically seems to indicate that there was someone shooting from the front. Now, people who know the JFK thing are talking about the Nix film and all that. I'm just saying, for this argument's sake, the Zapruder film was the only motion picture footage. So right away, that eliminates Steady Dave. We've seen a lot of other footage, and it's not the Zapruder film because, John, the film that you have identified, excuse me, see, Chris has already got this in my head, the video that you identified, the segment of video that you identified, if you are correct, and this does show the roof assassin being killed, well, that changes our whole understanding of what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania on January 13th. And that is what makes this the Zapruder film of the Donald Trump assassination attempt. It is this James Copenhaver film that is the pivotal data video. See, damn it, it's the Copenhaver video that could change the course of this investigation. John, what do you think of that assessment of what you've found? Wait, your microphone's down. We don't, oh, I'm sorry. Let's go again. We got you.
So now we have video evidence of the kid on the roof taking a bullet. And I think, many of the people who've watched this seem to feel that's what we're witnessing here. And as you've said, this changes the understanding, and it sort of illuminates the fact that the narrative is not what actually happened. We now have evidence of something else happening, because this kid's dead. So if this kid's dead, I can't wait to get to the patron-only portion, because now you're like, well, then who the hell is the kid with the rifle at his shoulder that we see in the TMZ footage? How did the kid get the rifle to it? It's like, huh? Whoa. So when we get to the patron-only portion, we're going to look at this again. We're going to listen to what the president is saying as the guy goes running across the roof. And then we're going to flip over to the TMZ footage. Because in the TMZ footage, we see some guy on the roof shoulder a rifle, and seconds later, we hear gunfire. Well, but here we hear Trump is talking, and the kid gets shot in the head. So who's the kid with the rifle on his shoulder? Where did he go?
Well, can I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
You were talking about Jason's prognostication abilities, and I look at this. I don't 3D killbox. I don't really. That's not my area. So, but the area I'm very good at, and I've been noticing this, is the media narrative, the propaganda war, and
yes,
you talked about the narrative of the shooting. We saw that change at a Senate hearing a couple of days ago.
Yes.
Acting head of the Secret Service, and by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, I've had strokes. Forgive my voice.
And for anybody who doesn't know, Lee Stranahan used to be on the staff at Breitbart and was very close with Andrew.
Yeah, before my strokes. So I may talk funny, but my brain's okay. So one thing, we saw the media narrative change. Actually, do you see the part where the acting head of the Secret Service said they just saw him after he shot him? We've seen we've heard different stuff than that before from the Secret Service, I think, that they had him in their sights, the snipers did, had the shooter. So I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying it's a contradiction. I don't know what's true, but it's possible none of them are true. And that's what am I right, Jason? Do you think?
Absolutely. I've been watching all of those hearings, Lee, and I think that they are characterized by contradictions, passing the buck, blaming other people. The only thing that I've been able to really, well, not the only thing, but the main thing that I've been able to surmise from watching those things is that the entire day was characterized by confusion. So we've got a lot to discuss on this topic. I hope that people will stay with us. We're going to be going over this for quite some time. People are going to be able to join us on patreon.com/Stranahan. Sponsor Lee on there. He's got a lot of content. You can also watch on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, or odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and all the other Crowdsource the Truth sponsorship channels. I want to remind everybody that we are all independent investigators. This is a cooperative effort. John and Lee do not work for me. I do not work for them. I hope that people will support all of the co-hosts and sponsor everybody who appears on Crowdsource the Truth. And thanks for the people who are sponsoring the show. We'll be right back. Stay with us. We got questions in the chat. We're going to talk about tons of stuff that John is going to show us, 3D assets. This is going to be an incredible show. So stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back.